Well, here we are again. It's Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We covered the people on the earth a little while ago, and it was amazing how that everything can be traced back to the existence of man that God made. All the way back to Adam. We can go back to the gene pool. We have come up with the gene pool of late. And most of the gene pool, we got to remember, has been come up with by people who don't believe in God. They believe they came from a monkey. But it's a funny thing that they can't take one gene of one human back to one monkey. And so we're not going to get back on that subject because it's a sore subject. And it's a dead subject as far as I'm concerned. But here's the earth that we live on. God created this ball of earth, and he made it, and he cast it out here into a system that doesn't crash with each other. There's not great clashes out here. All of these planets floating around here and not clashing. And one thing that's amazing to me, that mankind can send a piece of machinery up in an orbit that doesn't crash into another thing, or doesn't hit a meteorite, or doesn't do anything with everything that's flowing up there. And so let's look at some questions and answers about Genesis chapter 1 through chapter 11, and we're going to see some things. How should we visit our universe? How should we visit it? We should visit it as a thing that God designed. That's how we should visit it. It's vast. How vast is it? It takes a beam of light which travels 7 billion miles per hour over 100,000 years just to cover the distance length of the galaxy called the Milky Way. That is astounding. And you know, what I'm reading to you is backed up by the science books now. Comes right straight out of the science book. This is backed up by it. But our galaxy is only one among many billion in the known universe. To illustrate the size of the universe, consider the following 4 examples. Now here's 4 examples. A stack of paper, as thin as a sheet of paper is. If you took a stack of paper and you stacked them up, let's say the thickness of a sheet of paper represents the distance from Earth to the Sun, which is 93 million miles. We'll say that little thin piece of paper is 93 million miles long, thick. Wow. Unreal. You talk about 1 million, it'd be something. But 93 million. Now listen to this. To represent the distance to the nearest star, you would need 71 feet high stack of that paper. That is a figure with so many zeros behind it, you can't calculate it. To cover the diameter of the Milky Way galaxy, we would require 310 miles high stack of paper. To reach the edge of the known universe would demand a pile of paper sheets 31 million miles high. So we have a universe that only the God of heaven could have created. It couldn't have possibly been something that just happened. Just think about the origin of a grain of sand. And let's make a sand model. And here, the orange would represent the sun. A grain of sand would represent the earth. Circulating the orange at the distance of 30 feet. So what he's saying is take an orange, a regular orange that you eat, and separate it by 30 feet from a grain of sand. Now, let's look at the number 3, Pluto. The most remote planet in our solar system is another grain of sand, circling the orange 2 at 10 city blocks away. Number 4, Alpha Centauri, the nearest star, which is 1,300 miles away from the orange. The hollow sun illustration. See, if the sun were hollow, 1,300,000 Earths could fit inside of it. The star named Aquarius, if hollow, could hold 64 million of our suns, and the sun's several hundred times bigger than the Earth. In the constellation of Hercules, there is a star which could contain 1 billion of Antares, the biggest star. The largest known star, Epsilon, could easily swallow up several million stars the size of one Hercules. The relative speed illustration, let's take a look at that. The number 1, our Earth is traveling around its axis at 1,000 miles per hour, man's time. It moves around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour, man's time. It's carried by the sun across our galaxy at a speed of 64,000 miles per hour. It moves in an orbit around the galaxy at 481,000 miles per hour. It travels through space at 1,350,000 miles per hour. Anything that wasn't protected by God would burn up at that speed. Every 24 hours, we cover 57,360,000 miles. That's unimaginable. Unimaginable. Let's look at each year what we travel. We travel 20,936,400,000 miles across empty space every 12 months. And we don't know we're moving. And we don't fly off the Earth. And there are people that say there's no God. Only God could make such a thing, to do such a thing, to do. It defies what mankind knows. If you could shoot a bullet at a fast enough velocity, it would melt before it got to its point that you were aiming it at. You could melt, a lead bullet would melt before it got there. And we're traveling that fast. All of the above is, of course, but a feeble attempt to illustrate the magnitude and the space of the universe, which contained as many stars as there are grains of sand on all the seashores of the world. Just think, there are as many stars as there is as many grains of sand there is on this world. Psalm 147:4. Also Isaiah 40:26. We are told that God has both numbered and named each star. He telleth the number of the star, he calleth them all by name. Psalm 147:4. And I'm not going to tell you what I think about that. If I do, you'll turn me off and you'll think I'm crazy, but I might be crazy. And I might not have much of an education or anything, but I believe God can do what God wants to do. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. Oh, Study the little word host. He calleth them all by name. He calleth them all by name. What? The host. By greatness of his might, for that his strong is power. Not one faileth. Not one faileth. Not one faileth. Do you know what I have in God? I have everlasting life. Not one human being that's ever been born on this earth that had everlasting life has ever failed yet. And never will. God said we will live in eternity with him forever. In eternity with him forever. Boy, oh boy, you know what us human beings do? We put too much emphasis on living on this little old piddly earth for a few years. When we're bypassing, we could be laying treasures up in a heavenly place to where we can go and abide forever with the Lord. And here we are fooling around with this little piddly thing. Yeah. Great is our Lord and great power, and understanding is infinite. Psalm 147:5. How minute is our universe? Simply stated, it is unbelievably small as it is big, considered to the following. All material in the universe consists of atoms. Atoms, in turn, are made up of 3 building blocks, which are protons and neutrons, which 2 go to make up the center of an atom called nucleus, and the electrons, which circle the nucleus as our Earth does the sun. Do you get the picture? Can you get the picture? We take one little atom and dissect and look at it and everything, and God takes the whole solar system and it's like one atom. It's like one atom to God. You and I, it's the littlest thing. We take the microscope and look at it and it can make a bomb. And God looks at the whole universe as one atom to him. Wonder why God named Adam Adam. Do you ever think about that? Why do you think God named Adam Adam? And he was going to rule this earth. Adam was going to rule this earth. He was going to be the head knocker on this earth before he sinned. And when he sinned, he lost his position. On the tip of a ballpoint pen, of a ballpoint pen, are so many atoms that if they were carried by an army marching 4 abreast, an atom to a man, it would take over 20,000 years for a march to pass. That's the one atom on the end of a ballpoint pen. The Bible says, look at the ant. Look at the ant, the little bitty small creature of an ant. A ball of ants the size of a baseball can carry an acre of land away. Man. It doesn't have to be the size of a baseball over in Africa for them to eat an elephant. A band of them ants about the size of a golf ball. I mean, hey, they stop 25 or 30 minutes for a cow. And they go by and ain't nothing left but bones. Imagine that. It would take 25 trillion protons laid side by side to span a linear inch. Man, if you took just a few seconds and go back and read about a linear inch, that little bitty inch, 1 linear inch, and see what it would take to span that inch. 25 trillion. We wonder today where diseases and stuff come from. If you figure this out, that you mix today all of these protons and electrons, and you mix it all in a hodgepodge today in a gene pool, what you're going to come up with? If we did come from monkey, it would be a pretty picture compared to what you're going to come up with if you mix in a gene pool all of the stuff that's in the world today. The size of an electron is a dust speck, as the dust speck is to the entire Earth. Wow. The space between the electron and the nucleus is 10,000 times greater as the size of the nucleus. For example, if the outer shell of an electron in an atom were the size of Houston's Astrodome, the nucleus would be the size of a ping pong ball in the center of the stadium. Question: if most of the atom is empty space, why does a tabletop offer so much resistance when you push at it with your fingers? Answer: the surface of the tabletop is like the tip of one's finger. It consists of a wall of electrons belonging to the outermost layer of atoms in both objects. Both the speed and force attraction of these electrons thus prohibit your fingers from going through the table, as a fast-moving bicycle wheel would prevent you from placing your fingers through the spokes. There's air between the spokes. I got news for you. You want to try it? I tried it when I was a kid. You stick your finger up there. You're gonna stop them spokes. Don't stick it this way. Stick it this way, and you're gonna come back with a big old blister. That baby's hot, spinning like that, and you put it around it there. I took a screw out yesterday. I had a 3-inch screw. I ran it in, and I took it back out with my left hand, and I grabbed it with my right hand and burnt my finger bad. Just running the screw in and out made it fire hot. How much energy existed in the universe? All the atoms together, a density of 1 billion tons per cubic inch. This is around 40 pounds of energy between each proton. Something we can't even see. What I'm holding right here is tons. But the way it's designed, and the way we're designed, and the way the atmosphere is designed, and the way the earth is designed, God allows us to move tons. I don't know, and nobody else does either, where the power came on some people on the earth to move stones as big as houses that weighed hundreds of tons. This energy force is one followed by 38 zeros, times stronger than regular gravitational pull. How big is that number? It is over 1 trillion times larger than the number of all the grains of sand on the seashore. 1 trillion times larger than all the sands on the seashores of this world. A German physicist, Otto Gale, has calculated that a single drop of gasoline, if totally utilized in an automobile, would be sufficient for 400 journeys around the world, a trip involving 10 million miles. two or three things I see when I read that. One thing I see, one of the most intelligent people on the earth, the Germans, came up with that. Albert Einstein estimated the total amount of energy released from 1 ounce of water could easily lift 200 billion tons of steel 1 mile above the earth. Showing us that the flotation of water could be under pressure, hydraulic pressure. Actually, that's what moves the plates of the earth. And by the way, that big plate of the earth that went down between New York and New Jersey is that plate that sticks out on California that's shaking all the time. That plate is a half moon. When that plate goes down in California and it breaks off at the seacoast, and about 125 miles of California disappears into the ocean, where do you think it's going to come up? It's going to come up between New Jersey and New York. And it's going to come up there 25, 30 miles wide. And I don't know, I can't tell you how long, but thick, I should say, 25, 30 miles thick. I can't tell you how wide it's going to be, but I can tell you this. It's going to be astounding when it happens, and it's going to happen. The great earthquake. What mysterious secrets lie within our universe? A prominent scientist once said that man's universe is both unknown and unknowable. Quasars. These are light sources discovered by Dr. M. Schmidt of California Institute of Technology, 1963, by the way. They are relatively small, yet produce more energy than a cluster of 10 trillion stars. Man. Supernovas. These are stars that suddenly increase their illumination by more than 10 million times. Have you ever watched those? You ever watch those? I watch those. I've got a bunch of those videos that I watch all about those stars and about the black hole. That's a beautiful, that is a very, very interesting thing. The black hole's as slick as grease. There's not a pimple on it, not a knot on it, not a scratch on it, not a piece of sand on it or nothing. It's as slick as grease, and everything that comes anywhere within a certain area of it, poof, it's gone. Sucks it right into it. There are black holes big enough out there to suck many of these Earthians all at one time. I think when God cast this earth, the last thing God said he was going to do before he enters his new heaven and his new earth, he was going to take this one and cast it into the lake of fire. And I suspect at the end of that hole is the lake of fire. Wow. Neutron stars. This is a star that implodes, falls into itself. I watched that happen on this show that they're smarter than the average, that they could make a thing that looks like that and exploding. The gravitational forces which crush the atom into nuclear particles called neutrons. A neutron star would have an unbelievably density as a teaspoon of metal that weighed 1 billion tons on Earth. In fact, it would weigh sufficient to drive itself all the way through the Earth if it were collapsed, and the whole Earth neutron star's density. It would be approximately 300 feet in diameter. It would, if you took all of the human beings in the world today and put them in a raindrop, one raindrop, you would have such density as that neutron star. These are astronomical figures that the human mind can't, we just can't, we can't fathom this. This is all God's stuff. And God made some men intelligent enough to look at it and see what God made. And be able to tell us a little something about it. Black holes, a black hole occurs when the imploding star continues beyond the neutron stage, and the gravitational forces thus become so strong that even light itself cannot escape. Dr. Kip Thorne of the California Institute of Technology, I watched some stuff that they had out. It would behoove you to go to that website of the California Institute of Technology and look at some stuff that they have done as human beings. It's unreal. And that thing they've got, they sit in the middle of a floor in a building, but they can actually show you all this stuff happening. Amazing. These black hole things. Black hole is the end product of the collapse of a relatively large star, ultimate concentration of matter. We believe a black hole is extremely smooth structure. It can never have ripples or mountains or anything to trap, never escape. The black hole can never be split nor decrease in size. It can only grow, and nothing can prevent it from growing. Ultimately, the universe itself does not collapse and die first. The black hole will eat up all the matter in our galaxy. Already as much as 10,000ths of the universe might be a darn black hole. We would like to sweep this fact under the rug, but occasionally we drag it out and look in the face of it and shudder. It says to go to that National Geographic in May 1974 and take a look at it. I got that. And the light mysteries, as an object reaches the speed of light time, we are told, slow down. Thus a rocket ship manned by several men sets out to explore the universe, traveling at near the speed of light. Wow. Light and length and weight and time are mysteries. Not only does time and space craft moving near the speed of light slow down, but its length and weight are also affected. Imagine a spaceship which is 1,000 feet long and weighs 100 tons at 162,000 miles per second. It would measure only 500 feet but weigh 200 tons. It has furthermore been speculated that if a 30-year-old man should somehow remove himself to a planet exactly 30 light years away from our Earth, and from that point a telescope back to the Earth, he could actually watch himself being born. How complex is this? These are complex statements. These are complex things, and mankind, God has allowed mankind in his mind to look at this stuff that he's made. The problem today is that many of intellectual mankind do not give God the credit. How far-fetched and unrealistic and intelligent would it be to believe in the Big Bang Theory? How unintelligent is that? That is so unintelligent. I mean, we have dummies coming out of schools today that are more intelligent than that. How anybody ever got that wrote down and somebody believed it, I do not know. We got to hurry. Our time's gone. And the glory of the galaxies are but drab tinker toys. were compared to the miracles of a living organism. The smallest insert on this earth is up to 4 billion of living cells. There are some 75 trillion such cells in the body of an average man. But each individual cell is unbelievably complex. It has been demonstrated that the simplest living cell is vastly more completed than the most sophisticated giant computer on earth. Can you imagine that? The cell of one man. One cell of one man is more sophisticated than all the technology on the earth of the computers and everything. One cell. And what do we use? What do we use? How many cells we got in our brain? How much of it do we use? How much do we use? We use a drop in the bucket. We got a bucket full of these cells in our brain and we use a drop of them. One drop. Wow, each cell would be brimming with as many as 200 trillion tiny groups of atoms called protein molecules. It is a micro-universe in itself. Our bodies are micro-universes in their cells. How can you not see that it took a God to make the body of a man work? Just doctors that dissect one little molecule, one hair out of your nose has got little bitty hairs on it that collect dust. Who would have dreamed up or thought of such a thing as putting a hair in the nose that would collect the dust so it wouldn't go down in your lung? Only God. The dust collecting hairs in your ears. You're not supposed to pluck the hairs out of your ears. They're there for a reason, to collect the dust. So many millions of things that we can't even think about. The largest molecule is called the DNA, which is a deoxyribonucleic acid. The DNA strand carries the hereditary information from the parent to the offspring in all living things. It contains the genetic code and determines whether you will turn out to be a man, a mushroom, a dandelion, or a dinosaur. Do you know what that man just said? You know what he just said? He just said it's impossible for a man to come from a monkey. He did. How'd he say it? He said you're going to be one thing or the other. You might be a dinosaur, you might be a mushroom, or you might be a dandelion, but you're going to be one thing or the other. You're not going to change into something else. A mushroom's not going to turn into a dandelion's not going to turn into a dinosaur, and a monkey's not going to turn into a man. You know, I'm a dummy with an 8th grade education, and all it takes is study to get behind those men who I educated and glean from what they wrote down and begin to learn, begin to understand the total length of the DNA stands in one cell is 6 feet long. If you stretched it out, if all the DNA strands in the body were bunched up, they could fit in a box the size of an ice cube. But if unwound, joined together in a string, they could stretch from the earth to the sun and back 400 times. You say, Peter, are you reading that for the first time? No, I read it before. I read it before I talk it. I've read it before I'm talking it. I've got a little bit of forefront before me that I'd seen. Matter of fact, truth of the matter is, this book is marked. I've marked it all the way through. I've studied it and marked it all the way through. And as I study everything, I mark it. And then when I come back, like I am right now, I'm reworking it. I'm going back and recapping what I've already done. Each of the 75 trillion cells of a man's body contain the information found in all other cells. What did that just say? That just said if you could get a computer chip in a cell going through the body and have a computer in front of you, it would blow the computer up. It would give you so much information that it would blow the computer up. There's probably not a computer on the earth made that could contain the information from one cell in one man. If you had a computer the size of a big city like New York, it would blow it up. DNA is a helix in a single human being. If it had been unwoven around each other in a ladder-like fashion, separate to the form of a new cell, it is believed that the rotation during this unwinding occurs at the rate of more than 75 turns a second. Now we're talking about seconds. This would be somewhat like attempting in a split second to uncoil or separate a huge cathedral packed from top to bottom with twisting the intertwined microphone cord. After the double helix is separated, it then duplicates itself into a new cell. This duplication is so accurate that it would correspond to a rate of error of less than one letter in the entire set of an Encyclopedia Britannica. Woo-wee! Pile all the letters of the Encyclopedia Britannica, if you could take them out and put them in a human form of some type, let's just say each one was the size of a pea. You'd have enough peas to weigh hundreds of tons. Would fill a city block from top to bottom. One human cell in the laboratory, free from bodily influence, may divide some 50 times before dying. If all of our cells divided that often, we would eventually reach a weight of more than 80 trillion tons. Woo! When was the universe created? Some scientists would confidently tell us its origin occurred via a Big Bang from 5 to 50 billion years ago. How are these dates arrived at? One time calendar is called a radiomatic, dating the date of rocks. In certain rocks, the element uranium 2.38 decays at the lead of 206 with a half-life of 4.5 billion years. That is, the decay involves 50% of the original uranium each 4.5 billion years. It is claimed, therefore, that the age of a rock may be determined through this method. I got news for you. In studying that, it's not so. Carbon dating is unreliable at best. Radiomatic dating is even worse. Let's look at this one. However, there is a serious problem at times with radiomatic dating. For example, radiomatic dating has shown certain rocks from volcanoes in Russia to be 5 billion years old, whereas it is known they were only formed 200 years ago. They were formed from liquid from the center of the earth 200 years ago. And you can break them up with a hammer or a chisel and break them up and put them under this activity to see how old they are, and it lies. It don't tell you the truth. In opposition to the above radical ancient dating, a number of creation scientists now feel there is mounting evidence that our Earth may be as much younger as supposed, like 12,000 years old. These indications are as follows. And of course, a Bible studier like myself has a whole different idea of the whole matter. But if I put my idea on paper, it would be just like these men putting their idea on paper. They put their idea on paper dating those rocks, and it's all wrong. And they put their ideas, so some of my ideas would be all wrong too. However, there's a serious problem at this time. Noted with the radiomatic dating, for example, we see that it was a mistake. And we see the opposition. Let's look at population statistics. If a man appeared over 1 million years ago, the present world population would be thousands of times greater than it actually is. And this fact, our entire galaxy could not provide the needed space for so many. The entire galaxy wouldn't hold the amount of people. Do you know I'm honed in to talk Bible only, or to talk what's written down here only? I can't put my 2 cents worth in there. If I could, I got a good explanation for the statement I just read. The percent of world population is around 4.3 billion. Assuming the average lifespan is 70 years, and the average generation span length is to be only 35 years. Then, starting with one family, the percent of world population would result in the amount of 30 doublings, and these doublings would carry us back in history from today to around 3500 BC. This date is suggested by several creationists, science, to make the time of the flood. Thus, the creation model dovetails beautiful with knowing the world population statistics. But what the evolutionary model, Morris writes, now if the first man appeared 1 million years ago, thus very conservative growth rates applied during that period, the world population would be at a percent of 10%, with 27,000 zeros following. People, however, no more than 10 with 100 zeros. People could be crammed into the known universe. If this had been the case, we would be bigger than the whole universe, rather than where we are today. And so, the amount of helium, 4 in the atmosphere, this suggests that our atmosphere is less than 15,000 years old. I have got to quit for now. I have a situation I have to take care of. The decayed Earth's magnetic field, 1400, okay. Let's look at the imbalance of the carbon-14, carbon-12. It can be shown that the world would take a period of 30,000 years if we carbon dated. But we got to close for now. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.